What is up, guys? Kid Critic is back with another video, and this video is on my top 10 favorite movies of 2018. Yes, we are already at the end of an amazing year for movies, and this was a very tough list to make because there are lots of movies that I really enjoyed throughout the year. And do note, this is my own opinion. If you have the same list as me, that's great. If you have a different list than me, then that's even better. That way we have more to talk about. And before I get to my list, I will list down a couple honorable mentions that I do have that almost made my top 10 of the year. And to start off my honorable mentions, I had Bumblebee, Creed 2, Mary Poppins Returns, Vice, and First Man. These were all wonderful films that just barely missed making my top 10. If this was a top 15, most likely all of these movies would have made it. And with that said, guys, let's get started with the top 10 best movies of 2018, in my opinion. A Star is Born just hit my number 10 spot in my top 10 list. You may be thinking, well, why is A Star is Born so low on my list? Well, while I did really enjoy the movie, I didn't enjoy it as much as other people. I did think that it did run a little too long, and some of the story elements were a little bit generic, and some of it was a bit predictable. But it definitely doesn't outweigh the amazingness of this film. Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga have wonderful performances. The direction by Bradley Cooper is great. The chemistry by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper absolutely drive this film, and it is why you watch this movie in the first place. This movie definitely has a strong ending, and there's lots of powerful moments throughout the movie, and overall, I really enjoyed A Star is Born. MCU's Black Panther does come in at my number 9 spot of my top 10 list. Going into this movie, I was highly anticipating this film, and coming out of this movie, I loved Black Panther. The character of T'Challa is amazing. How he's trying to be king, and later in the film he figures out that great kings do make mistakes and not everybody is perfect. I thought that was one of the best parts of the film. Obviously, Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger is great. I thought his motivation worked, and the MCU isn't that great with its villains, but Killmonger is definitely an exception. And obviously the setting of Wakanda is wonderful. The cultural impact that this film had was amazing, and that is why Black Panther hits my number 9 spot on this top 10 list. Bohemian Rhapsody hits my number 8 spot on my top 10 list. Now you may be thinking, what? Bohemian Rhapsody is better than A Star is Born or even Black Panther? And yes, I do think Bohemian Rhapsody is better than those movies. And one of the best reasons it is because of the portrayal of Rami Malek to Freddie Mercury was definitely the best performance of the year. He carries the movie, and you believe that you're actually watching Freddie Mercury on screen. The way he portrays him on stage is beautiful. Obviously, the Light of 8 performance is probably the best part of the movie. And this movie also has lots of emotional impact throughout the film, especially when it comes to the character of Freddie Mercury. There was lots of emotional weight inside of his character that does come out throughout the film and does hit hard and hits well. Now, I do understand that there's people out there that said, like, oh, I think this didn't pay much attention to this part of Freddie Mercury's life or this part of Queen. And while I do agree with what they're saying, I just feel like what this movie was trying to accomplish, it accomplished it flawlessly. And that is why this movie does hit my number 8 spot. Green Book hits my number 7 spot on this list. Going into this movie, I was really excited to see it. I loved the trailer, and coming out of this movie, I loved Green Book. And the reason you go to this movie is because of the relationship between Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen. Their relationship is very entertaining to see on screen. Their comedic back and forth is great. Whenever there's an emotional scene between them two, it works flawlessly. The way Mahershala Ali helps Viggo Mortensen send letters to his wife was great. And yes, this movie does have racial messages that it sends out. And I thought when it does that, it does work in the story. And the way it was showed on screen was very impactful and very empowering. And overall, I loved Green Book, and that is why it hits my number 7 spot. BlacKkKlansman hits my number 6 spot on this list, and Spike Lee comes back with a bang. I love BlacKkKlansman, and the way Spike Lee balances the comedic side to more like the darker side, because the subject that this movie is on, you expect like a very dark film. This movie has lots of comedic elements that I thought worked flawlessly. All the jokes were great, and they were put in the very right spots in the movie, right where you needed them. And I thought it was great. After like a very intense scene, you have a little joke to balance out the tones that I thought worked great. John David Washington is awesome. Adam Driver is great. And overall, this movie is awesome, which is why it hits my number 6 spot on this list. We have now made it to the top 5 movies of the year, and to start things off with that is Avengers Infinity War, a highly anticipated MCU film, which is the culmination of the 10 years of MCU films. And coming out of this movie, I loved Avengers Infinity War. The way the Russo brothers were able to weave these stories was surprising, considering all the storylines that they had to fit in the film with the many characters that this movie had. Thanos was a great villain, probably the best villain the MCU has had. You get his motivation, and the best villains are the villains that think that what they're doing is right, and that's exactly the villain that Thanos is, which is why Thanos is so great. Battle sequences is awesome. The Battle of Wakanda is great. The battle on Thanos' home planet was also great. All the performances were flawless. There's not a wink link in this film, and that is why Avengers Infinity War makes my top 5 movies of 2018. Hitting my number 4 spot of my top 10 movies of 2018 is Love, Simon. This may be a surprise to you, but I love Simon. The reason why is just because this is just about a story of a kid that's just going through life in high school, and you really feel for this kid played by Nick Robinson, who I thought had a wonderful performance in this film. And you really feel for this kid, and you see his point of view in this movie. Jennifer Garner and Josh Duhamel do a great job as playing his parents. And then when he ends up coming out at near the end of the film, it is very impactful because of all the events leading up to that climax of the film, and it just explodes, and it's just very empowering. And that is why Love, Simon hits my number 4 spot on this list. Now this one may be an even bigger surprise to all of you, and that is Annihilation hitting my number 3 spot on this list. Now you may be thinking, what, Annihilation is in your top 3 favorite movies of the year? Yes it is, and I don't care what you say about it, because this movie has my favorite genres in one. It has sci-fi, it has horror, and they're all together, and it works amazing. I love the creativity from Alex Garland, and this film looks amazing. The performances from Natalie Portman is great, and overall Annihilation is just a great movie in my eyes. I know a lot of people don't like the ending. I did enjoy the ending of the film, and overall I love Annihilation. That is why it hits my number 3 spot on this list. Now, going towards the end of the year, I thought, well, Incredibles 2 is probably going to be my favorite animated film of the year. And boy, was I wrong, because Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse hits my number 2 spot on this list. I adore this movie. I can watch this movie 50 times in a row and not get bored. The way they weave in all the different Spider-Mans into one, and they all worked flawlessly. All the characters are great. They all had their moments, and you care about all of these spider people and the characters in each of the universes. And I thought the relationship between Miles Morales and Peter B. Parker was great. The way Peter B. Parker was a mentor to Miles Morales was really good, and the relationship between Miles Morales and his family, like his dad and his uncle, were great. There's a great scene between Miles Morales and his dad, which was very emotional and impactful. I thought the villain of Kingpin was great. I love the look of him. I love the look of the animation, the way it looks like a comic book. And overall, I adore this movie, which is why it hits my number 2 spot on top 10 best movies of 2018. We have finally made it. My number 1 favorite movie of the year is A Quiet Place. And I was really anticipating this movie, and coming out of this movie, it knocked out all my expectations to the roof. And this movie is amazing. John Krasinski has a great directorial debut. The way he basically made there was almost no dialogue throughout the film except a couple of scenes where there's whispering, and you did not get bored. This movie was 90 minutes of intensity from beginning to end. This movie makes some twists and turns where you're like, ooh! And the performances were great. Emily Blunt is flawless in this film. John Krasinski is awesome. Millicent Simmons, I think, has an underrated performance. I think she is also great in this film. I thought the father-daughter relationship between both John Krasinski and Millicent Simmons was great and had a brilliant payoff. This movie had lots of emotional moments. The ending was really cool, and that is why A Quiet Place is the best movie of 2018, in my opinion. Now with that said, guys, look out for the next review, and it's going to be the first review in 2019, a new year full of more great movies, and I cannot wait. And with that said, guys, look out for the next review, and peace.